Hi, my name is Dee Roussel, also known as Deja, and today we're talking about my September TBR. So I'm actually not a TBR kind of reader. I usually just go with the flow of what I actually want to read. But I'm thinking what I'm going to try to do is just have a certain amount of books that I'm like, okay, it'd be nice if I get to these, if they fit, like just some kind of prompt or readathon that I want to participate in. And so that's what I'm gonna do for this month. This month I wanted to read a lot more Hispanic authors because it is Hispanic Heritage Month. So I realized, like, looking back now as I chose them, a lot of the authors are actually Mexican American, which isn't a bad thing, but I did want to diversify it a little bit. I know I have at least 2 authors that are not Mexican American, but I know for the future I'm probably going to try to diversify that a little more for future TBRs and just for the rest of the year. So without further ado, let me get to the books I want to read for Hispanic Heritage Month, and then I'll jump into the other books that I might read for the month. The first book that I have is Amora by Natalia Palesso, and I mentioned this in my library book haul. It was part of my Storygraph challenge to read translated books, and this book is by a Brazilian author. And so I was like, yeah, this is the perfect month. It's a short story collection, and yeah, that's pretty much all I know about it. I don't really know the themes about it, but I'm excited. It's pretty short, so I was like, I think I could finish this. And then I have How the Garcia Girls Lost Their Accent. I got this in a bookstore, not a bookstore, a used my library's bookshop place for like $1. And I know this is like one of those classics, and so I wanted to just have it in my radar. This is also a pretty short book. I don't really actually know what this is about, but I don't know. I was like, it's Hispanic Heritage Month, so I think this will be a good addition, and especially since it's one of those classics that I usually hear about. This book that I have next is one that is on my bookshelf that I also got at my library's bookshop. It's called In the Time of the Butterflies by Julia Alvarez, and I've heard of this author before. I'm not sure what I've heard her write before, but I do want to try this author, and I am trying to read more off my bookshelf. So this is another book on my radar. I don't exactly know what this is about because there is a sticker on top of it. So yeah. Another book that I have on my radar for September is also one that I mentioned in my library book haul, and that is Neruda on the Park. And this is a book following a Dominican family. This is one of the few books that I actually have that's not a Mexican American, or not even American, just a Mexican inspired or author. So yeah, I definitely want to get to this one. It's one of the newer books that was at my library, and I'm thinking this will be a good one for me just because I usually like following like families, and I think all of these actually so far, I mean besides Amora probably, follow families with Hispanic backgrounds. And one that I'm really excited for is Ballad and Dagger by Daniel Jose Older. So when I was in high school, I actually read Shadow Shaper, which I'll put right here, and I absolutely loved that series. Like, the culture was amazing, like having like the characters working together. I loved it so much. And I haven't actually read anything by this author since then. I think he was more so writing middle grade before I actually knew I liked middle grade. And so this is the first one that I'm going to be reading since I actually read that series. And so I'm really excited. I've heard amazing things about this, and I know the culture is going to be amazing again, and I know the characters are going to be great. I'm really excited. So this is probably going to be a top priority for me. A nonfiction book that I have for the month is called The Years with Laura Diaz. I don't actually know what this is about at all, but I originally got this for my best friend, who's Latina, and I was like, oh, before I actually recommend it to her, I should read it. And so I've had it for some years now, and I've never read it, and I don't actually know who Laura Diaz is. And so I'm thinking there's gonna be a lot of like history in this book that I probably won't know about, because American history classes and just history classes in general in America are just not that inclusive of other places. And so I decided I was gonna pick this up. It is kind of big, so I'm not sure I'll finish it, but I have already started it. I'm only on page 8. I started it this morning when I should have been getting ready for work, but I do want to read this. I saw some reviews that were saying that it was it informed them about a lot of stuff, and so yeah, I'm excited to learn about this woman and how she influenced history. And then I have The Last Quintista, which I'll put right here. And this is a YA sci-fi that I've also heard amazing things about. And so I'm just hoping that I love it, and that the parts of YA that I don't like are not going to be in this book. And from what I understand, like, it's not like, there's just, I don't know, I feel like I'm gonna really enjoy this one too. I have this one on ebook. More books that I have on my radar are from the author Angelina M. Lopez. I got her entire Filthy Rich series, and I just feel like at first I heard about Hate Crush, which is the second book. The first book is actually called Lush City, and then the second book is Hate Crush, and then the last one is Savage something, or I don't know. The cover will be up here too. But the first thing that drew me in was because I just love following rich, like, terrible people, and I don't necessarily know if they're gonna be terrible people, but I don't know, I find it so entertaining, just being frivolously rich or whatever. I don't know why it's an aesthetic that I really like. But another thing, I heard stuff about the second book that really intrigues me, and so I didn't actually know it was a series, but I have the entire series on audiobook, and of course I'm going to read them in order. The next books that I have are actually on Kindle Unlimited. The first one is Sing Me to Sleep by Iron Virtues, which I think the author identifies as Afro-Latinx. I'm not exactly sure what specifically they are, but I do know that they do identify with the culture in some way. So this one has a lot of trigger warnings, so I would look on the author's website to see if it's something that you want to read and if you can handle to read. But I am really excited to read it. Like, I haven't read Drag Me Up yet, which everybody seems to love, but I wanted to start with this one just so I can see if I like the author's writing style, which honestly I feel like I will. But I just want to test it out via Kindle Unlimited first before I actually purchase something. The next book that I have on Kindle Unlimited is actually by an indie author named Victoria Paria, I want to say, and this book is called The Painted Woman. I don't know anything about this book except that it is by a Mexican American author, and that it is Egyptian inspired, I'm pretty sure. So, editing Deja here. I just realized that The Painted Woman by Victoria Paria or Paria is actually not Egyptian inspired. It is just an adult fantasy slow burn romance. I don't know where I got Egyptian from. I think I was just mixing up another book with this book. And I think that actually wraps up everything that I have on my radar to read for Hispanic Heritage Month. So now I'm just going to go to the random books that I have for the rest of the month. The first book that I have is Minion by L.A. Banks. As you can see, I've already started this. I'm only on the first chapter, and I am enjoying this a lot more than I thought I would. The first time that I read it, I wasn't really into it, but I think I was just too young. And so I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm only about 32 pages in, and then it's a mass paperback, so I don't think this will take me long. One book that I've been meaning to get to for the longest of times is Song of Blood and Stone by Elle Penelope. I really want to get to this series, and I don't know, there's just something I just never pick it up, and I don't know why, but I do really want to get to this. Like, I love this cover more than I like the covers Orbit did. Like, those aren't bad, but I prefer this cover because it actually has an ambiguous black woman on it, but to each own. But I do want to get to it. It's a fantasy romance, and I'm eager to get to it, but we'll see how it goes this month. And then I have Passing Strange. This is one that I mentioned in my library book haul that, I don't know, I just picked it up for the cover. I don't really know what it's about, but I wanted to put some more shorter books on my TBR so I can actually feel good and return some of the books that I got from my library. Kind of along the same lines as that, I have Blue. This is also a little novella that I wanted to pick up for Caribbean Heritage Month, and I still have not picked it up. I don't know what it's about, but I feel like when I'm in like a reading slump, this will be like a good one to try to pick up in between some of my bigger reads that I have for Hispanic Heritage Month. So yeah, that is that one. And lastly, along the lines of trying to read the shorter books for returning them to the library, is the Comfort Me with Apples. I feel like I'm gonna try to read this at the end of the month because I feel like this is gonna be like a creepy one, or at least like a domestic thriller or something like that. And so I'm gonna try to move it towards the end of the month so that way I can get into my spooky vibes. The last physical book that I have that I want to get to the month is The Hero of Ages. I'm so behind on the Brandon Sanderson read along. Like, I'm not gonna catch up like ever, but I still do want to read this series, and so maybe if I have time I'll read this, but it's not a top priority. But I am curious to know like what happens at the end, but we will see. So I have two more books that I wanted to talk about. The first one is That My Dear Is Love, I think it's called. And as soon as I saw this cover on TikTok, I was like, I'm reading this. And so I haven't actually been sent the book yet, but I'm hoping I can get an arc of it because I'm just loving this cover. Like, I fell in love with it so much, and I cannot wait to show it to you guys. Like, literally like one of the most gorgeous covers I've ever seen. But it is a low fantasy historical romance, and literally I'm in. Like, I'm just in. So I'm excited to get to that. All right, sorry for the like jump, if there was a jump, but I had to correct something when it came to this book. So it turns out that My Dear Is Love is actually out already. It came out on Monday, I want to say, or it's coming out on Monday, one of those. But regardless, it is out pretty much. At least the digital copy is out, and so I'm going to be downloading it and hopefully reading not an arc but a finished copy. One I'm already in the middle of, and that is Conquest by Celeste Hart, I want to say her name is. Of course I'll put the cover here. This is a dragon fantasy or science fantasy romance, I want to say, and I'm like 29% into the actual story, and I like it well enough, and I do want to see like where it goes. But since I didn't finish it last month, I'm adding it onto this TBR. That's all that I have for today. I thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and yeah, bye.